Let's get this party started.
Yay!
Derek Haber, shoo everybody in that's out there. Tell them we're starting.
The Three Amigos.
You come over here. I don't want to sit in the middle. Come over here.
You're the boss guy. You're supposed to sit
I know
in the
my
middle.
coffee's over here. I don't want you to have to hand me
Then
my
move
coffee.
it over there. Oh my gosh.
All right, so we are at the end of this Crossroads University, and it's been good. Have y'all enjoyed the different speakers the last 4 Sundays? Yeah. Different folks that have taught for us, and we're looking forward to putting them in the rotation again. Mike's got handouts. If you did not get a handout from today, for today, Ted needs one up front. Just a couple of reminders. Next week is breakfast. So we will be down in the underground during the 9:30 hour for breakfast. And then the following week is the Lord's Supper. And again, we really want the body to make a really strong effort to set that time aside to be here. We know people go out of town, and that's totally, I was just out of town this week. I'm going to be out of town in October. People go out of town, that's totally fine. But as much as is in your ability, try not to schedule to be away when we do the Lord's Supper. I mean, that really is, it is about the body coming together. So breakfast next week, breakfast is free. Anybody want to tell me what we're having for breakfast? Pancakes. There we go. So yeah, pancakes and sausage, and I'm sure there'll be other things, but pancakes are the entree next Sunday. So be here at 9:30 down in the underground. Make sure and use sign-ups in Church Center to get your peeps signed up for that. But today, as we finish up this round, we've had 4 different speakers, and this. I think last year we did a State of the Church in the first or second Sunday of September. So we're just kind of rounding up August this year with it. And so just the idea is for you to just be aware of where we are and where we're headed and get an opportunity to reflect. Some of you don't always get a chance to see a broad scope of the ministry. You see what you see when you come in the door and when you sit down and when you leave. And so today's an opportunity just to help the body kind of be informed, know what's going on and who we are and what's happening. And so we're going to do that this morning. And hopefully there'll be time for questions at the end. But in order for that to happen, we've got to start moving. So I've got to stop talking. Let's pray. God, we are grateful that you have been merciful to us. And gracious to us and blessed us in ways far beyond what we could have imagined here at Crossroads. And we're here today to praise and to praise you and to glorify you and to be good stewards of what you've entrusted to us. So we just pray over the data that we've put out today. It's not really about the data that just helps us understand the growth curve and what we're responsible for. So we just pray as we put the data out there, God, we can in our hearts and minds translate that to hearts that need to be loved, that need to be cared for, that need to be nurtured, and need opportunities to serve and love others. And so I pray that we would translate that this morning in the name of Jesus. Amen. Daniel.
Yes.
Get us started.
Okay. So we're going to be on the first page. We're really just going to talk through kind of the numbers we've seen throughout this last year. So we're going to start there at number 1. So we currently have 276 unique individuals. Now that's compared to 250 last year. So we have seen some growth. And with how full this church is on a regular basis, you would think that it would be more than that. But really what's happened is we've had some people that have left and the new people that have come. But the difference is the new people that we've gained over the last year are people that have been attending on a regular basis every week, to where we used to have a lot of people that were here kind of irregularly. So we have people that are here more consistently, they're giving more consistently, so we're seeing more of those numbers that are here than we used to, okay? So an interesting fact, when you look at the breakdown between male attenders, female attenders, is we have 166 males to 172 females, which is kind of odd for a church if you don't know, because typically a church tends to lean a lot more towards more women in the church. And we're pretty well even male and female in the church. So that's actually pretty cool to look at and pretty unique when it comes to church demographics. So,
How many of y'all are sitting there adding up numbers? How many of you are mathematicians and you're adding up numbers? Because the numbers don't add up if you're looking. I know we've got middle school math teachers in the building, and so here's why those numbers don't add up. Yes, we have 276 unique covenant partners and regular attenders, but those the 166 and the 172, because that comes from a metric that's in there. That includes people that are not regular attenders to the church. They're not covenant partners, but they attend MOPS. So, which again, I think is even more profound from the stability and the strength of men in the church, because that number, that data of 166 males, 172 females, that includes all the MOPS moms and their kids that are not regular attenders of the church. What's that? Yeah. As to my knowledge, all of the DOPS attend the church regularly now. Yeah. Yeah, they're all regular attenders. That wasn't the case a year ago, but yeah. Suck them in.
All right, so let's look at the individual breakdowns and age demographics. So adults, unique individual adults, we have 174 adults compared to 155 last year. Our youth, CSM students, we have 30, which last year was the same number. And again, if you've seen our youth group, like the group we took to camp. So the group we took to camp, we took 20 students to camp. And those students, I think we have all but one of them regularly attend. So all of our students that regularly attend pretty much went to camp. Now we have other students that we consider in Crossroads Student Ministries, but they don't attend regularly. So that number stayed the same because we have had some that have moved out. We've had others that have moved in. But again, our students are more consistent. They're beginning to become more consistent in their attendance. And then on the children's side, you have 72 children aged 10 and under compared to 59 last year, which again doesn't seem like that's enough of growth with how many children we have running around the building. It's insane. So within this, these individuals represent 115 households in the church. So any single individual 18 or older is considered a household of their own. So anybody who basically has graduated high school at that point and is 18 and over, they become their own household. They're no longer in that family that they were the year before.
So like the Cunningham household, they all live in one house. 2 are in college, but 5 people in one house represent 4 households because 3 are over 18. So,
right. All right. So we currently have 118 unique covenant partners. Now these are people, young adults, or adults that have made a profession of faith and have signed a covenant with our church. Now this will grow some this year because currently we're doing a series for our youth that I'm teaching through our covenant partnership. And the reason we're doing that is because once a student hits 6th grade, we as a church no longer consider them children. They are now young adults in 6th grade. So part of that, if we're going to treat them as young adults, we have to treat them like all the other adults. So we're moving them through covenant partnership. So I'm teaching through that to help them get a good understanding of our covenant, what we believe, so that we can move them towards committing to covenant partnership. So we're kind of working backwards. We have some students in our student ministry right now that aren't covenant partners, so we're trying to kind of work them in to covenant partnership at this time. So then we also have 157 unique attenders that are not, so it's birth to 18 years old, and that they have not made a public profession of faith and have not signed a covenant. So that's 157 that aren't covenant partners. So this number includes regularly attending guests of all ages who have attended more than 3 times and have identified Crossroads as their church, but not made a formal move towards public profession or covenant partnership. And then number 5, in the last 12 months, we've baptized 12 individuals. Last year, we baptized 11 over the previous 18 months. So we're already on track this year to well exceed our baptisms from last year. In the last 12 months, we've had 47 new covenant partners unite with C2 compared to 35 covenant partners last year. And then to our knowledge, we currently have 60 people walking together in intentional discipleship. So these groups are currently not reported when they stop and start. So it's kind of hard. We try to keep track of our ID groups, but sometimes it's difficult because sometimes people just start meeting, and that's great.
It's a good problem.
That's a good problem, but it makes it hard to track. So when we have numbers, they're kind of rough numbers because we don't always know exactly who's doing what. So number 8, on Sunday mornings, we are averaging 175 total per Sunday. And it was 94 in early 2020. So that number has exploded over the last few years. So in the worship center, on average, we have 117 people per Sunday. Elementary is averaging 25 attenders per Sunday. 4s and 5s is averaging 14. And you can see what they were back in 2020 over to the right. 2s and 3s is averaging 13 per Sunday. And then birth to 23 months is averaging 8 per Sunday. This does not include the at least 5 babies that are currently, they stay in the worship center every Sunday. They haven't made it to the nursery yet. So that number is expected to grow as babies start to be put in the nursery. So groups. So we currently have 8 unique groups that meet weekly. Now that includes Crossroads Student Ministry, MOPS, and then you have several other groups that meet throughout the week. So CSM averages 21 students. That includes the staff on Sunday nights, reaching about half of our middle school and high school students. This is 14 more than regularly attending students in early 2020. So we have several students in our system that don't attend regularly, but they are considered students in our database. And then there are 171 unique people on the rolls of those groups. So between the 8 groups, we have 171 people attending those 8 groups. And it's about 51% of our church in groups. So we still have room for growth. And if you're in any of those groups, you're asking how, because most of those groups that meet they're becoming huge. Like, we're outgrowing spaces that we're in. So we have room for growth, but that just means we're going to have to create more groups to bring those people in. So it's a great problem to have that we have to find a solution to. So groups minus midweek and Kids for Christ are averaging 98 in attendance. About 36 of those are being MOPS. And the midweek is averaging 42 adults. Midweek Kids for Christ is averaging 23. for a total of 65 on Wednesday evenings, which is a lot of people in this building for a Wednesday. And then the ecclesia is averaging about 106. And that's our 9:30 service, so that would be what we're in now is averaging about 106. Crossroads University is 65. Kids Worship Makers is 21. 4s and 5s is averaging 7. 2s and 3s is averaging 6. And birth to 23 months is averaging 7. Are there any questions about any of the numbers or anything that we talked about? Anything that was confusing? So as we've talked about, these numbers are creating great problems. We're having to try to figure out how to fit people into rooms, how to fit kids into to kids ministry. So we've been discussing over the last several months, and we'll continue to, some solutions, short-term and long-term, on how to kind of accommodate the growing number in our church. So great problems, and I'm sure it'll continue. So.
Yeah. One thing I want to reiterate on that is these are numbers. Numbers are sterile. They're just figures on a page. But those numbers, the reason we go over them is those numbers represent lives, and lives are important. And so, 12 baptisms, it's a number, but that's 12 transformed lives that have made a decision to publicly declare their allegiance to Jesus. So don't get lost in the numbers. Again, numbers just kind of help us see how are we doing. And so that's why we track numbers. We don't brag. You'll never. I hope the word "never" really does ring true in this. You'll never see us posting on social media about the number of people we had at Easter Sunday, or the number of people that we had for this, or the number of people we had, or how many, pictures and videos of what we did when we went out and served the community. That's not the reason we do what we do. We do it because we want to glorify God. And the numbers, numbers glorify God. He named a book Numbers, or we named a book Numbers, because it's about a lot of numbers. And so numbers mean something because it represents lives that Jesus loves. So again, don't get lost in just numbers.
How many, up and upstairs, you really can't sit up there. So down here, how many seats are there actually?
There are 156 chairs down here. We have, and the rule is 80-20. You're never going to fill all 156 chairs. Again, shouldn't say never. It is, the law of averages is that you won't fill all 156 chairs. It's one of those 80-20 rules. About 80% capacity, people start to go, And how many of y'all have one seat left in your row right now? One or two, and you just can't fill every single seat where a family of four is sitting on a row of 5. So we are looking at some creative solutions. We'll talk about those here in a little bit. Any other questions on, and by the way, we've broken these categories down by what we call our gospel distinctives. Grace is salvation. Are we sharing the good news? Are people receiving the good news? Growth is spiritual growth. Again, don't let that word growth deter you. We're not looking for numeric growth. Numeric growth just gives us an indicator of what kind of spiritual growth might be happening. But we've seen it before. We've seen numeric growth where there was no spiritual growth. And so numeric growth doesn't necessarily mean spiritual growth. But spiritual growth will almost always indicate numeric growth, if that makes sense. To coin a phrase from a very wise, almost full-time associate pastor, healthy things grow. So our goal is not to grow, our goal is to be healthy. All right? Giving. We don't talk about giving a lot. We talk about it right before we give people the opportunity. We teach on it as we come across it in Scripture. It has been a long time since we've done a series on stewardship. Tony and Mike Haas taught a class on stewardship here in one of the past blocks of Crossroads University, and that included giving, but we don't harp on giving. And I think I said it last week, God doesn't want your money, He wants you. And the unique thing is once God's got you, He's got your money. If your heart is to worship Him and serve Him, glorify Him, and enjoy His presence forever, you're going to give where it's necessary, and you're going to give what He's equipped you to give. So, but out of 115 households, just looking at some stats, we have 36 to 40 households that contribute to our offering consistently. What's that? Oh. So, I mean, that's a low percentage. And that's whether they give $10 consistently, $2 consistently, or $200 consistently.
Out of those 115 households, do you have any idea how many of those households have at least one person considered a covenant partner?
I don't. Good question. Yeah. I could make one up. No, we don't know that. About 27 of those have a recurring gift set up on Church Center. Again, that's not required, but that just kind of helps you understand there are at least 27 households that intentionally are giving on a regular basis. Sam?
Well, and just as a reminder, this, if I'm understanding correctly, the 115 households, that means children over 18 in that same house that could be considered.
Sure, yeah, so that, I mean, you're probably looking at maybe 15 single young adults that may or may not live at home with their parents. Yeah. The next page, we have about 60,000 in renovations that need to be done as soon as possible. That includes new HVAC units in the upper room, which is that room on the other side of the loft, and the completion or remodel of the kitchen. Downstairs in the underground, which again, that number was over 100,000 last year. Some praises that they're kind of built into the numbers. You know, we're praising for 12 baptisms in the last 12 months. By the way, those 12 baptisms include the one that will happen today and the 2 that will happen next week. We were supposed to have 3 today, but Carl Huenfeld got COVID, So he and Cheyenne will be getting baptized next Sunday, and Colin Hicks is getting baptized this Sunday. So we're looking forward to that. The 2 splits that you see back there on the brick wall, if you're setting up far enough, those were installed this year. That was about $7,000 to be able to cool the loft, which allows us to not push so much cold air down here on a Sunday. And so we've actually been able to adjust the thermostats about 3 degrees down here. So now it's only the wimps wearing coats and blankets. And then also that includes a $37,000 roof on that back part of the building. That was all done this year with cash that was given through stewardship. So those are great praises. But as you see on the next page, and I won't go through every detail, we kind of, on the averages, we show you the last 4 years so you can see how offerings have changed over the last 4 years. That would be pre-COVID numbers through COVID numbers on to the present. Orange is almost, it means our giving almost met budget but fell a little short. There's no oranges on this year. There's only one red on this year, and that was our February average. But all the other months, monthly average giving has blown that one red month away. So it has been an exceedingly profitable, and again, not personal profit, but it's been an exceedingly beneficial year this year for giving. If you were not here last Sunday, you might have missed the announcement that this is Daniel's last Sunday as a part-time member of our staff, effective next Sunday. Daniel is a full-time associate pastor here on our staff. Yeah. And that is, I told y'all last year that it was a promise and a hope 10 years in the making. We were figuring this week it's really more like 13, 12 or 13 years since we first started talking about Daniel being full-time here. He's been very gracious in many years where it wasn't necessarily that we couldn't afford it. It was we just wanted to make getting the building finished a priority before we brought him on. But this year's giving, as you can see, year-to-date budget surplus has been $16,000. So that $5,000 mark there in the yellow, that is our target for every week, our target average every week. Anything over that is considered a surplus, and then obviously anything under that is considered a deficit. And we are $16,343 in the surplus, which has allowed us to bring Daniel on staff, and that will more than pay, that $16,000 will more than pay for his full-time salary for the rest of the year. So we won't even be digging into the budget at all this year to bring Daniel on staff. So that is a definite praise. Any other questions on there? How those funds are determined or how those goals are set? I don't want to belabor it, but we really don't do budget stuff much with the congregation or giving stuff. So if you have questions, I would definitely want to give you that opportunity. Yes, ma'am.
On the benevolence giving, does that include those times in which money is given, like at a certain moment?
Yes, so that would be all. Everything, when we put it out there and say, hey, we've got this special need, if you designate it to benevolence, so year-to-date benevolence would be everything that we put out there as far as special needs. There is a small line item because things happen that we're, as a matter of fact, was it this past week or was it last week? Someone showed up at the door needing help with gas. And so we don't put that out and say, hey, we need to raise $20 to put a gas in a guy's car. So we do have a line item for benevolence.
What is how what is the district benevolent budget?
Do you have any idea, Debbie? What is the benevolence budget? Okay. Yeah, I can go a little broader on that. And so benevolence would be really when someone needs groceries, someone needs gas, things like that. And it's a few $1,000s. I don't know exactly, but yeah. But because our people are so good about giving on the moment, rather than designating money and it might get spent. But our missions, which would be separate from benevolence, our missions budget is 10% of our annual budget. So whatever we're planning the annual to be, we give 10% to missions. So we basically tithe to missionaries, tithe to our missions budget. And that 10% does not include, probably I'd say, maybe about $10,000 that's designated for specific missionaries each year. So some of you support, yes, yeah, that's over and above the 10%. So Stephanie Martin, where's Stephanie? Stephanie Martin, she'll be presenting her field and sharing her experiences of the last year, sharing some Ivorian food this coming Wednesday in midweek. So if you'd like to come to that, we'd love to have you, and hear what's going on in Côte d'Ivoire through campus ministry and campus discipleship and evangelism that Stephanie does. But there are several individuals that support Stephanie, and actually, if you use our online giving, you'll actually see there's a fund called Martin, and so if you want to give to Stephanie specifically, you just designate it to the Martin Fund. Brittany and Elijah Van Hookey, they are also a fund, and so they are supported so Stephanie's supported by the church and by individuals in the church. Brittany and Elijah are supported by the church and by individuals in the church. So, yeah, that's that. Whatever we bring in a year designated to missionaries would be on top of the 10%. Good questions. Any others? All right. Gifts, just real quickly. We currently have about 116 people using their shape to serve in ministry here on Sunday mornings. That would be coming out of our services app, people that appear on services schedules. So about 116 people. This includes several middle school and high school students who are not formally committed as covenant partners, but will be moving forward in order to serve in our kids ministry or any other ministry in the church. You need to go through the process of partnership before you can serve. One of the things we don't want as our students move out of elementary school into middle school, we don't want them just hiding in classrooms. We don't want them participating in classrooms. We want them learning leadership skills in classrooms, but also, just like each of our adults, we want them also participating in the morning worship service as well. We have a total of 31 ministry teams on which people can volunteer and use their shape, and you can find those in Church Center under groups, and then there's a subgroup called ministry teams. So if you're looking for any of those ministry teams or what they might be about, you can check that out in Church Center. So grace, growth, giving, gifts, using our spiritual gifts, and going would be our missional part of the Great Commission, the missional part of the gospel. We currently have 8 global partners, 1 in the U.S. and 7 on 6 foreign fields. That may seem small depending on the church background you come from. Some churches choose to support missionaries. They want to support numbers. And so some churches our size may support 150 missionaries, and they may support them at $20 a month. However, if many churches do that with a missionary, then when that missionary comes home for 6 months or a year, or how long are you home, Stephanie? 6 months. Okay, so Stephanie's home for 6 months. If all of her supporters support her at $20 a month, that means she's got probably 100, 150 supporters. And in order for her to get around and update all of those, she spends her entire time back home traveling from church to church and people group to people group. And so we have chosen to support our missionaries at heavier. So all of our missionaries we support at least $150 a month, and some more, especially if we're their home church, their sending church. We have one missionary that we support for more because he supports missionaries that he's sent out, and so we send support to help those missionaries that he's sending out. And so we love to see our missionaries having baby missionaries, who actually we are great grandparents to missionaries in Peru. We have missionaries who have sent missionaries who have now sent missionaries. And that's super cool, super cool. We currently have one person serving the needy or food insecure here in our community in Grain Valley. We currently have one person serving missional needs in our city with refugees. We'd love to see those numbers increase. And then we currently have 2 couples serving as ambassadors to refugees here in our city. And again, we'd love to see those numbers increase as well. Any questions on giving, gifts, or going? Great. Michael.
So this last section here is called God-caused problems. Most of these are issues that have come up in the last couple of years. A lot of it's due to just the growth of our church. We've had a lot of people come through our doors in these last few years. Most of these are really awesome problems to have, but they are things that we need to address as a body. And so, you see this number one there, we have limited early childhood space. So, out there we've got 2 relatively small classrooms, and a ton of children to fit inside of them. And the more children you get in there, you also have to add more adults to watch the children, and so they just get incredibly crowded. So that's one thing that's why we've had to shift how we age our children so many times. Well, they age at the same rate, but change how we put them in classrooms and stuff, because we're just trying to manage how many kids are in each classroom and doing that in a consistent way. So we're also running out of space for church-wide fellowship. So if you've been to one of our breakfasts downstairs recently, it's extremely crowded. I mean, there are a lot of people for the space that we have. So we've started, sending some people upstairs for breakfast or eating. There are people up here in the commons area eating food, just to try and make room for others. But even as we dismiss from church, or before, you might notice that there's just a huge crowd of people out there in the commons or in the doorways or wherever, and it's hard to find a place to if you're trying to leave, it's hard to navigate through all those people. And so just finding spaces where our church can fellowship, can have conversations, those are issues that our church is having to deal with, especially on Sunday mornings. And then the last, we kind of touched on it a minute ago, just running out of space in here in the worship center on Sundays. Said about 75% capacity. There are some weeks where it's hard to find a chair to sit in, especially if you've got a family or whatever. It's hard to find a row where you can sit 3 or 4 or 5 people together. And so, going along with that is the restrooms. We've really got 4 one-person restrooms here on the main level. And those restrooms are almost always full in between services. And so just that is one thing.
We actually have people that leave the service early to go to the bathroom because they know they won't get one after the service is dismissed.
So yeah, that's an issue. And it's just something that, we just have to kind of deal with for now. And all of these are just problems. We can live with them. We can make things work. But it's something that as we move forward, we have to keep in mind, and we have to be considerate and think of these things. So, in the short term, none of these are problems that we can just make go away, right? Unless half of you guys leave the church, we're going to continue to have these problems. So, in this short term, we're going to have to love one another well. That might mean taking care of business before you come to church, so you're not in the bathroom for a long time. Just an option.
Just getting real.
Yeah. Being willing to sit next to somebody who you don't know super well in order to fill a row completely. That way we don't have tons of rows with 1 or 2 chairs open. Those are all things that we need to be thinking about. We want to use the space that we have to the best of our ability. When you're fellowshipping, if it's nice outside and you're trying to have a conversation with somebody, don't stand in the doorways. Just go outside or if it's not, come up here in the worship center. It's kind of strange maybe to, when you're getting ready to leave, come up to the front of the center instead of the back. But if you're having conversations, use the spaces that we do have to have those conversations rather than standing somewhere where it's going to make it difficult for other people to move around the building. That's one thing that we just need to be conscious of. It's hard to be aware of because a lot of times you're just walking and somebody snags you for a conversation and you just stand right where you are, right? But just kind of try to be aware of that as much as possible as other people are moving around. One thing that we're going to be moving toward in the coming months is probably having some fewer large corporate events. So we mentioned like the breakfasts downstairs are really, really crowded. So we're probably going to be moving more towards small group events or something where we can reduce the total size. Now, we still want to be unified as one body coming together, right? But sometimes it can be difficult to get everyone packed into one room, so we're going to try and move toward having some smaller groups, having those meals and things in smaller settings, where it's a little bit more intimate anyways. Long term,
I wouldn't go over those, Michael, for the sake of time.
yeah, we're running out, aren't we?
There's nothing definitive, and there's nothing new this year that we didn't know last year. So
That's fair. So on the back page there, this is really, the front of the last page. This is really the most pressing issue for the moment. Number 5 there is we're short-staffed in our kidsmen and housekeeping teams. So we mentioned the more kids we pack into our classrooms, we need more adults in there to manage those kids. We really do need help. Having adults in there to help, whether that's changing diapers or not nursing, like
Yeah,
bottle
rocking.
feeding or
rocking, bottle feeding, playing with babies, yeah.
Please don't nurse the kids.
Yeah. Unless they're yours.
Yeah. But we do need people in those classrooms to help, especially when we have, so many babies, so many little ones. We just need adults in there. We want people who love kids. We want people who are going to serve them well. But we do need more individuals. So if that's something that you would be willing to even consider, please talk to someone in KidsMin, talk to one of us, and have that conversation.
And our biggest concentration really is on the nursery, the birth to 23 months, and the 2s and 3s. And you get higher up, and people start to get scared about being with other people's children and things. And so our biggest effort is if we can fill our nursery and our 2s and 3s with adequate, equipped volunteers. Moving forward, it's been our rule. I think we've fudged it a few times, but moving forward, we're not going to fudge this. We do not want a single adult in a classroom alone with any students. That is not safe for the adult. It's not safe for the children. Have you ever seen, 10 babies mob an adult? or 2 and 3 year olds mob. No, but it really is. It's for the safety of the children. It's for the safety of the volunteers. And so we just don't want to have to do this. I don't want to have to announce, hey, you know what? We're shutting the nursery down because we only have one worker in there. And so we are in need of about 4 to 5 more volunteers to serve in early childhood on Sundays, and then we still need about 8 on Wednesdays. So if you don't attend Wednesdays, but you'd like to serve kids, we could use you on Wednesdays.
Yeah. There's a lot more information here on these last 2 pages. unfortunately, we are out of time. Is there any points that you wanted to make?
No,
sure
I would
we
just encourage you
hit?
to read through them. I mean, there are some areas we can do better, but again, don't missionally. And again, we're working on some plans to do that. We'll kind of introduce some of those things to you, but we really want to get our groups thinking about who God has already placed them with, that they can reach for Jesus. And so a lot more is going to go out. Breakfasts are probably going to go away in 2023. They've maxed out and they're starting to decline because of space. So those are going to go away. We're still going to do some tailgates. We'll still do some church picnics. We have one on October 2nd. And so we'll still have some big church-wide events that gets the whole church family together in a venue that fits us. But then, yeah, we really want to drive groups to do more ministry together, groups to do more community together. And you and another, one really natural one, and we'll close with this, is like our Tuesday nights, we have a ladies group, and then we have a men's group. And both of those groups, a lot of the people in the groups are spouses of the people in the other group. And so it would be a very natural thing for those two groups to get together and do ministry together, or to get together and serve their community together, or get together and have fellowship events and things together. So, yeah, these problems are God-caused problems, and it's just God pushing us into deeper opportunities for community and ministry, not to less. Yeah. All right. Just a reminder, with these things that we've talked about, if we can move people forward, that's awesome. Find someone that you like to be cozy with, share your row with other people, and don't stand in the doorways or the walkways. All right? God bless you. You're dismissed.